Hello and welcome to episode 57 of KSP to Mars, where we join the Prometheus that has rendezvoused back with Earth and is now on its way to meet the rescue vessel. This is called the Shuttle. It's a throwaway ship that I launched up into orbit with the express purpose of putting crew on the Prometheus and providing a remote controlled capsule to, take the science from the Prometheus and land that back home. Now, the rendezvous has been set up, the relative speed was quite high. I went for a quick and dirty rendezvous that cost the Prometheus here about 2.5 kilometers per second of delta V, but fortunately this is a fusion ship and delta V comes in abundance. I hope though that I didn't overcook the approach here, because the relative speed is still 720 meters per second, and that's 2 bursts, and we are now receding again from the target vessel, so might have to do some orbital finagling there. Anyway, that's the introduction for today. I will set up that rendezvous and return narrating and videoing when the two ships are close together, and then I'll also show you, of course, this shuttle that's now only an enigmatic green rectangle. Yeah, so see you in a bit. And as promised, here we have the shuttle, 2 Kerbals aboard, Carrick and Gusry, and it's a whole piece of kit. It wasn't too heavy. I could have brought more fuel to top up the Prometheus. As it stands, we have 1800 units of liquid methane in the upper stage booster of the launch vehicle, and that is useless, for one, because we can't dock this bit to the Prometheus, and of course as well because the Prometheus doesn't run on liquid methane. It runs on liquid fuel and fusion power. So we are just preparing to undock this upper stage, and then we can light the 2 small engines that will bring us in for docking with the Prometheus. As before, of course, we can't use the Prometheus engines because, well, they pose a radiation hazard. The plan here is we have a lander can with some landing legs mounted upside down, parachutes here in the control wheel, and of course the big heat shield. This is going to re-enter with the science from the Prometheus. The 2 Kerbals are going to stay on board, and I'm going to have this lander land unmanned, because with the parts we have, the big heat shield, the parachutes, the landing legs, G-forces are more of a problem than heating. Heating we can survive, I'm confident of that, but the Kerbals are quite squishy, and anything more than 9 Gs will cause them to cry and possibly die. And it's dangerous enough for the Kerbals to be up in space, so there's no reason to ferry them up and down more than is strictly required. So this re-entry will happen automated. Then Carrick and Gusry can be safe in the knowledge that they are aboard a fusion-driven starship that has never killed anyone before. Yeah. Technically it was the attached lander that did the killing, but, well, there is no blood on the consoles of the Prometheus. Let's leave it at that. So this docking will be interesting because all the engines are facing backwards, and that's also where the docking port is facing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to approach really close to the Prometheus and then turn around and edge her in on RCS. That's the plan at any rate. So I think this is a good spot to zero out the velocity. The ship is quite heavy because it's completely full of fuel, most of which will of course be left on the Prometheus for, well, powering future interstellar hops. Well, not interstellar, but interplanetary hops, of course. Right. I think we can even use RCS from here. This is a distance that counts as close in my book. So, same docking procedure. Well, this stage is useless. I could have slapped a remote control unit on it and re-entered it, but, well, that requires foresight, and I did not demonstrate that. So, yesterday evening, before making this video, I made a first impressions of the new space MMO Entropy, which is currently on Steam Early Access, and that should be online before this video hits the channel, so give that a look. I wasn't completely positive, but I'm going to do more exploring of that game, and of course a game in which you can do dogfighting, spaceship, sci-fi setting stuff, and do it online with many different people. It is quite a good mix. It's like EVE Online the upcoming Star Citizen. Anyway, that's what they want to be, I think. It remains to be seen how good it actually is. For now, I mostly struggled with the small text and well, and the early accessness of it, because, well, nothing is quite clear. I have read some guides now. I do know how to proceed a little bit better, so maybe that will happen in the future. Anyway, go check that out if you are looking for a different game. If you do get it, it's 18 euros, I think, and then, well, hit me up in the game and we can either shoot pirates together, be pirates together, or fight, or, you know, do online gamey stuff. Oh right, I thrusted backwards, but because I was controlling from the rear already, that actually translated into forward. So I was ever so gently and perfectly aligned, floating away from the Prometheus. Yeah, not the best way to go about docking. You have to go towards your target, not away from it. Alright, a little bit of time acceleration. There we go. Because even if we're dealing with scant meters, I'm an impatient man. Okay, reducing that speed, because we are off target. How's my monopropellant doing? Well, that's doing fine. Just a quick switch to the Prometheus again, where we shall realign the targets. There we go. Back here. And now you can see after the adjustment you can easily see how we were off ever so slightly. So adjusting that and thrusting towards it. I think this shouldn't be any problems with this. And this is of course full of fuel, this is full of fuel, and well, all but, well, we're in a fairly low orbit, so we don't need a lot to put this on a re-entry trajectory. So all but like 10 units is going to go into the Prometheus. But first, of course, we have to make sure that we actually do dock properly. Oh dear, that was a bit. That's still a bit rough. Go on, connect. If it pleases you, please connect. Yes, fuel hose is attached and everything is now connected. So I'm going to transfer Couric and Gussery to the other side, do the fuel transfers and all that good stuff, and then I'll check back with you, because that will take a little bit of doing. So back again. The science is now safely tucked away in this lander can. Here's the data. The Kerbals are safely tucked away in the Prometheus. The fuel as well. We have a full tank here and a little bit less than half full tank here. And we have the curious situation that because these fusion engines require only liquid fuel, we are completely unbalanced in the liquid fuel and oxidizer department. I have decided to fill these tanks up with oxidizer regardless, just for more versatility, so that any ship docked to this that's not powered by fusion can refuel from it, and that there will be oxidizer available for that. It does mean that because this one is 50, it's just completely full, and these ones here have already more oxidizers than liquid fuel. In next mission, and the Mars lander will be the next mission that will attach here, I am going to skew the ratio to have more liquid fuel, because, well, to have oxidizer is fine, but to top it off, that's silly. That's just lugging around mass that can't be used. So for now we are getting ready to, well, re-enter the science, and for that we're going to time warp forwards to Apoapsis so that the craft can, well, make its... Oh, that up and down thingy is completely going haywire. Anyway, I know the Apoapsis is 400 kilometers, and I don't know why that vertical speed indicator goes so weird when time warping. It's night, that's unfortunate, but we don't need to do a lot. We just need to uncouple this docking clamp, switch to the other vessel. Oh, this was still close, wow. Switch to the other vessel, here we have it. And yeah, we have electric charge, a lot even. KSP Interstellar make these lander cans have a lot of electric charge. I don't know why, but I'll accept that. I'll run with that. So let's separate from the Prometheus just there. little bit of time warp because we're separating at like 0.05 meters per second. And well, I'm being frugal because we don't have a lot of fuel. We need to do this sparingly. So pointing retrograde. I don't care where we're going to land, just that our trajectory makes sense, is a sensible one. So let's engage the engines. And let's go for an 85 kilometer periapsis. I think that will be decently good. Worst comes to worst, we are spending some extra time circling the Earth. So time warp engaged. Let's have a look at that reclamation of science. Now I don't want to hit spacebar because the stage is all messed up. It will separate the heat shield, deploy the parachutes, and separate this, which are all things that don't need to happen just yet. Well, I put 10 liquid fuel units in each of these canisters, and I used 2 out of each, so wasted 16, but well, you know, who cares? Right, going to separate the rest of the craft now, and with that we'll have no control authority at all. So I'm going to do that while rotating to just get some distance between us and the rest of the ship. So there we go. No. No! What? Yeah, no, that didn't happen. That's just too stupid to accept that I put the wrong decoupler in the wrong stage. I'm not acknowledging that that happened. I'm loading a quick save. I'm doing it. I could have edited it out, but well, that would have been cheating even more. So yeah, I hope you can live with me after this horrible cheat. We are doing the re-entry, and I'm not accepting that I just jettisoned the heat shield above the atmosphere. No, that did not happen. That did not happen. I want the science. I want the death of I forgot his name already, of Hedbury, Kerbin, the guy that splattered on the lunar pole. It cannot be in vain. So let's undock this again. Well, what I won't do is well, it's so short anyway, I might as well. So this is the exact same bit as before. There we go. Bye bye Prometheus. Aiming the ship retrograde. I'm not even going to use the staging bar. I'm just going to right click on the ship. Yeah. So lighting the engines for a periaps reduction. Just pretend this is the first time. 85 seems like a good number. There we go. And let's proceed to the day side. Yeah. Okay, let's try this again then, shall we? Rotating the ship to get some separation from the other stage. Hitting decouple on the button. There we go. Wonderful. See, that was not difficult at all. And now we are... This is just asking for trouble. Hitting the inflate heat shield button that's next to the decouple key while it's spinning. No, just inflate that heat shield. Angle that in the prograde direction. Wow, this reaction wheel is overpowered for this size craft. And I'm hoping that the big shielding braking effect of this craft will, well, aid in its aerodynamic stability. Now what we have here, we have 4 parachutes and of course the heat shield itself that will be removed at some point. I'm going to deploy the parachutes first and then separate the heat shield. That should give us a nice decent re-entry. So with that, there's nothing more to do than time warp forwards and see how we plow into the atmosphere. I didn't bring a Kerbal engineering system on this flight, so we're just going to have to look at our own readouts. We are decelerating and we are in surface mode. That means that we're not in orbit anymore, for those of you that wondered. Yeah, we're experiencing drag. It's all good. And I'm going to try and do what Makolo said, angling the shield down to give us some lift so as to make it a gentler re-entry. I don't dare angle it down too much because, well, then I'm just afraid that we'll die because of instabilities. I'm going to enable the RCS system as well. It's welcome to use that. Oh, well, I can enable the RCS system all I like. Oh, it does have, I did put nozzles here, wonderful. So it can use that fuel as well for more control authority. Time warping forwards, 86 kilometers. We're experiencing more and more drag, but still under a G, so we would have to sink a little bit lower. Maybe this lift thing is really working fine, because I don't know, but we're not falling into the atmosphere so fast. Also, of course, the re-entry corridor was very shallow, just coming in from a low orbit, just dipping the periapsis inside the atmosphere. It should be a lot less spectacular than coming in from lunar altitude and that kind of stuff. So far everything is looking good. Remember, this pod carries a lot of science. 10 reports from the moon. A Kerbal died to bring us these reports, so they are important, don't you believe that? So, some more. Well, the control authority is not really enough to keep it angled anymore. That probably means that we're stable in this way, which is completely fine by me. 100. Now we're getting into the G-force area. 5 Gs and slowing down rapidly, which is good. Getting a tickle of heating effects. And this big shield high up in the atmosphere is really so much better than the small tiny shield on the bottom of the heavy capsule. That just plummeted through the air, only getting decent deceleration down low in the atmosphere, where you of course then encounter massive G-forces and, well, die. G-forces are still high here, but now the heating isn't a problem. I still don't know if this heat shield can just withstand infinite heating, because there is no like resource here that has ablative heat shield. This is just, well, it's a heat shield and it lasts forever, something like that. Anyways, 7 Gs, and it seems as though they're dropping. So we should remember 85 kilometers from low orbit is good altitude to do. Obviously, if the ship behind the heat shield becomes heavier, then the characteristics change, but for now this seems like a good amount. Still slowing down rapidly. Using the RCS to keep us oriented. I don't think we even need that, so I'm just going to shut down. Yeah, look at that. Aerodynamically perfectly stable. Don't need the reaction wheels at all. And that's a phone call, so see you in a bit. Phone call done. And thanks to the wonders of time manipulation, scant seconds have passed for you where hours have for me. Resuming this monumental mission of science recovery, let me see where we were. We are plummeting towards the Earth in a good way. We are just doing 400 meters per second now, which is, well, wholly survivable. There should be no problem landing this pod. So 300 meters per second, I feel completely confident in deploying the parachutes here and now. So let's do so. There they go. It has been suggested to me that I should get the real chutes mod. I have no idea what and how that influences the game, but I might, because more realism in the way the parachutes act can never be a bad thing, I don't think. Anyway, now is also a splendid time to ditch the heat shield. Let's go ahead and do so. And that does function a little bit strangely, because the 4 parachutes, they apparently don't slow down this craft as much as the heat shield does. Then again, that might be realistic. Hey, look at that, I can peer between the heat shield and the pod. Of course, I separated them. Apparently the 4 parachutes don't slow down the craft as much as the heat shield does, which I suppose is realistic, but I'm not sure if that's actually realistic. Yeah, that sentence made no sense at all. Anyway, I'm going to deploy the landing legs now. Maybe they can push the heat shield away. Ah, they can. Look at that. There it goes. This feels like a dangerous maneuver. But all in all, our unmanned lander seems to be behaving fine. So I'm expecting this, well, this pod of science to reach the surface safe and sound, and I will not subject you to the long wait until it actually does. So I'll see you in the science building, the R&D station. And there we have it. Touchdown, 5.9 meters per second, safe and sound on the landing legs. They are a wondrous invention, are they not? Let's recover this and enter the science into the system. Taken on the moon by a HUD gun, who then splattered across the lunar surface, returned on autopilot by the Prometheus and now sent down by the relief crew there. 564.2 science points from 2 lunar landers. This can be repeated in many different biomes for more gains. But for now, this mission was a resounding success for all involved except Hutgun. Right, so we have 720 something points, not enough to unlock any advanced node. Here, for instance, the particle accelerators that let us play with antimatter. A little bit premature considering we haven't really mastered fusion yet. The composite materials here that do things, well, those are 550, we could get those. What I want is an upgrade either for the electric generators or for the radiators, so that well, we can utilize the big fusion reactors as displayed here, because now we can't, because we can't get rid of the waste heat efficiently enough. So I wonder where in the tree they are hiding, and we can go exploring, but that will be a little bit dangerous. It's a little bit dangerous to just go hunting for the upgrades. Although I have to admit, the fusion power here that upgrades the fission reactors, that doesn't say it on the node here. So I'm just going to have a look on the internet to see which node does the radiator and the generator upgrade, because it's probably not going to say so on the node. Right, back from the internet, and it turns out that the experimental electrics, this one here, that there's the microwave thermal receiver, the thermal transceiver, that stuff. This also upgrades the radiators and the electric generators. So this is our top priority now. It's 1000 science, where we currently have 727. So I'm hoping that a surface sample return from Mars, combined with crew reports and that good stuff, will get us there. So let's head on over to the VAB, where I'll design a Mars lander, which hopefully works. And here in the VAB we have the beauty that will get all the science from Mars. It's the Mars Fantastic, seats 1, and has all the trappings of a true science probe. Has all the sensors neatly arranged past the ladder so the Kerbal can grab them. Just noticing I forgot some lights. I will put lights on in a bit. 2 nuclear engines to take off from Mars again, a delta V of 7.5 kilometers per second. And for a change, everything is oriented the right way. Not quite now. What I did is I had a decoupler here, and this is where the booster will fit, that will, well, boost this to the Prometheus. And this is also where it will dock to said Prometheus. Now, the heat shield is a tiny spaceship of its own. It has a probe core and a RCS tank with, of course, the RCS nozzles, a few batteries, and a docking port of its own. So when it comes time to land on Mars, this will detach, swing around to the other side and attach here, and that way it will plummet through the Martian atmosphere as first on the heat shield, and that means these new and fresh drogue chutes can deploy from the get-go, and they will pull in the correct direction. When that whole assembly has slowed down the craft enough, these regular chutes will also open, and of course the rocket motors will fire. I am hoping that that will provide enough drag, enough landing authority, and of course we also have the heavy duty landing legs, so that should hopefully lead to a safe Martian landing. We have radioisotope thermal generators here for some trickle of power for the reaction wheel. We don't have an antenna just yet. Let's put them on there, even though the aim of this expedition is to return science to the Prometheus. Well, transmitting stuff like EVA reports and crew reports never hurt. The plan is to launch this through Prometheus, ship the whole assembly to Mars, land on Mars first, put then the science in the Prometheus, and then attempt landings on Phobos and Deimos. Because, well, our encounter with the ion probe was less than a full success, and, well, if this gets eaten by the Space Kraken as well, then at least the science will be safe in the Prometheus again. But for now that is premature. First things first, and that is to launch this and rendezvous it with the Prometheus. I will take care of that. See you on the other side. And here we are once more, coming in for a docking with the Prometheus. The Mars Fantastic, loaded to the brim with science and a turban of a heat shield that will of course flip around when it's time to land on Mars. I have high hopes for this craft, and well, the whole mission. I was planning to send the whole assembly on its way to Mars as is, but then I remembered the plight of the orbiting science lab there, and they are still in dire need of a nuclear reactor. So after this, I'm going to send up another vessel, a small one, that will attach a pocket nuclear reactor to the ship that can then resupply the Mars lab. This will of course then need to establish orbit in two different directions, but thanks to the power of fusion, that should be very much in the realm of possibilities. So there's hoping at any rate. I'm going to try and make that a compact launch, so I don't need the full force of my usual heavy launcher, which would expedite matters somewhat. Coming in a little bit off center here, but we should be fast. We should be slow enough so that that does not really matter. I hope so, at any rate. Let's see if we can make a connection here. Go on, docking port magnetism. I hope you can help me out here. Use the RCS system to press into it a little bit. Come on, there we are, docked. I have a feeling that this assembly will be somewhat wobbly, but well, we'll just have to take it slow and reasoned. Let's see what our vessel, it now tells us we have 21 kilometers per second of delta V, and I don't think that's even counting the fuel in this tank. So well, that should be enough for a Mars mission and back. This whole Mars Fantastic assembly on its own, it has about 7.5 kilometers per second. I think I showed that in the VAB, and I hope that's going to be enough to take off from Mars. It should be, I think it should be. So shutting down the nuclear drives, we don't need them for the way there. Gee, I'm not sure the Kerbal Engineer knows what it's doing. It's telling me I have 8,000 seconds of specific impulse, which is an average of 815,500, which is of course completely inaccurate. Yeah, I don't know. Now, as to attaching the pocket nuke, I'm going to go for this docking port. The docking ports here are, well, somewhat unoptimally placed because they're like right under the heat radiators. We'll have to spank an engineer that came up with that one. I don't know who that might be, but we can ditch one of these remote control pods, and well, we'll still have one, so the Prometheus will still be remote controlled. But there will be a small self-sustained nuclear reactor for the transit to Mars. We have some time still. We have 16 days until the transfer window opens up. And with the amount of delta V we have in this vessel, well, it doesn't really matter if we nail it exactly or if we don't. Our vessel now, it's 160 tons. That's the heaviest vessel we've sent en route to Mars by far. I'm thinking we're gonna pick two of these guys. They will occupy the Mars lab, and then the other two get to go home, if all goes well, of course. Reaction-wise, we have most of our uranium still. We have a good supply of tritium, and more important is that we can generate that on the go, and for that we have a lot of lithium. So the fusion reactor should keep going. We've spent about 15 kilometers per second of delta V going to the moon and back and doing our orbital maneuvers. That has worked out to 5 units of deuterium, which is of course also used in the fusion reactor. So for this trip to Mars and back, I'm not foreseeing any long-term reactant problems. So that should all be good. I'm going to go into the VAB and make that third launch for the mission, and then I'll see you when that's in an interesting position. And here we are approaching the Prometheus once more with the pocket reactor. This is the reactor module and some fuel tanks. The fuel tanks unfortunately are completely empty. There was plenty of delta V in it to allow to top off the Prometheus. But, well, what can I say? The rendezvous was quick and dirty. I spent 1.5 kilometers per second on this vessel and about the same on the Prometheus just to make them meet, but well, they did meet quickly, so there's that. I folded away the heat radiators on this side, otherwise it would be a very exciting corridor for the pocket reactor to fly through. And now we can have a little bit more leeway. Basically we can grab the docking port, target this docking port. Oh, it's still moving, it's still approaching. Oh dear. Let's see. It would be unfortunate to now crash the crash the reactor into the ship, really. I think this orientation will do fine. I'm going to have to lock it with SAS, switch back to this bit. I don't know how it got so crooked, but well, we shall deal with it. So these fuel tanks are now empty, and you might be wondering why I'm still dragging them along. Because, well, there is a decoupler here. I don't have to. I can use the RCS here to, well, to just make the reactor dock. But I want to have a good look at the fuel situation on the Prometheus, and I can use these tanks to offload some spare oxidizer if that becomes necessary. But I mean, we're not going to get into any reaction mass, any fuel problems, no way. But well, it's always nice to minimize the amount of stuff we're bringing, especially if it's unneeded stuff. This is a very sloppy docking. I'm definitely happy that I retracted these radiators. I'm saying it's a sloppy docky, but sloppy docky. No, a sloppy docking, but it wasn't even docked. But now it is. I'm going to transfer the fuel. It's a big mess. These tanks here are almost empty. Have a look. A lot more oxidizer than fuel. This central tank is completely full, and of course the lander, the Mars Fantastic here, that is also completely full. I'm going to leave this full. It's, oh dear, what happened here? I don't think that's supposed to happen. What the hell is that doing? Something crazy is going on here. I shall load a quick save and see if that fixes this weird docking port. So let's try this again and see if the heat shield now doesn't glitch away. That would be nice. These kind of things, they are just, I'm convinced they are weird game glitches. I'm not going to redo a multi-launch mission because a part decides to come off. That is a bit too hardcore even for me. But let's see. Yeah, that's stuck this time around. So let's quick save quickly before that happens again. And what I was going on about is that I'm going to fill these tanks with liquid fuel. I am taking that from here. This is going to remain filled with liquid fuel and with oxidizer, because this of course needs to take off from Mars. Then when these are full with liquid fuel, I'm going to have a look at how much is left in this, if anything. No, nothing will be left in that. And I will decide on how much oxidizer I'm going to keep around. I think 800 will be... I think I'm going to take even less than this. I might just ditch all of this. Although there's not even enough capacity in that. I'm just going to completely fill these tanks with oxidizer to get rid of it. And that will be that. So yeah, the fuel transfers will take a while, but I'll not show you that. And there we have it, all the fuel transferred. Look at that, 3 fuel tanks full of oxidizer, and they can now safely be they can be separated away. Decouple that. Feel free to float off, and of course the reactor unit is here. This is going to be a very wobbly ride. The engines here will fire. This will pull it off center, but fortunately this weighs about 160 tons and this is like 3, so I'm hoping that won't be too bad. This is not connected at all, so that wobbles back and forth like crazy, but I hope the structural integrity will hold. I can deploy this heat radiator again. That is just going to tickle the tanks over there that are gently floating away. Whew, they got a whack of them. I'm going to thrust a little bit on the fusion drives to get away and not lose my heat radiators, because they are quite essential. So, the Mars Express 5, or however many mission this is assembled. We have the Prometheus, the mothership with 3 Kerbals in here, no, two Kerbals in here. We have the 3rd Kerbal that will, well, after the injection, burn Mosion over to the Prometheus mothership. He's in the Mars Fantastic, the lander with the detachable heat shield that will fly around and attach on the other side. Then we have a little care package here, the pocket reactor for the Mars lab. Mission profile will be as follows: inject to Mars. Establish low orbit around Mars. Attempt surface landing. Do science there. Get back up into the embrace of the Prometheus. Then we are sending from a medium to high orbit. I'm going to raise the orbit of the Prometheus and the lander to the altitude of the farthest moon, and then this lander with one Kerbal will attempt landings on those moons, fuel permitting. If that happens, well, regardless of whether that happens, the fusion ship will then raise its orbit very high, reverse orbit, and meet back up with the Mars lab, where the crew will rotate, the care package reactor will be attached, and then the Prometheus will head home with all the science. An ambitious plan, and definitely something for tomorrow's episode. So for now, thanks for watching so much. Click like, subscribe, comment something, and share your predictions for the upcoming mission. Will it all be doom and gloom and some explosions, or will this actually come together nicely? I wonder what you think, and I wonder what will happen. So once more, thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.